Welcome to this episode of Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess. I'm Aric.
And I'm Angie.
We are married with a ton of kids.
We have 6 kids total. He has 3 and I have 3.
My name's Hallie and I love riding horses.
I'm Lexi and I love agriculture.
My name's Carter and I love eating.
My name's Chase and I love lifting weights.
My name's Summer and I love spending my parents' money.
I'm Dane and I love baseball.
Our show is about our blended, blessed, and always a mess life. And our hope is if you find yourself in the same situation we are in, that by sharing our story, all the fun and all the mess, the challenges we are experiencing, it will give you some inspirations, laughs, and community, knowing you are not alone in this mess.
We appreciate you spending time with us. Let's dive in.
Welcome to this week's episode of Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess, where we have decided to have some guests on. And I am excited about it because it is some of our very best friends. It's Angie's very best friend in the world, Amber, and her husband, Adam. And so we travel a lot together. We're neighbors. We do a lot of things together. There's a lot of fun. There's a lot of laughs. But honey, I have to say, this is the weirdest crap ever. Like, 5:30 tonight. It's 7:30. It's 7:30 on a Thursday. And at 5:30, we got the most random green room request from Adam. And I'm not even surprised by this. Why don't you just share what he requested?
Well, it's a long list. I'm not even sure I can get through reading it. But I'll just give you a little bit.
We all laughed hysterically when we got it.
Reese's Pieces, only the yellow. In a porcelain bowl. Supreme Pizza. 11 inches, no meat, no veggies.
Not 10, not 12, 11 inches.
63 popcorn-flavored jelly beans. I mean, it's a freaking mess. I don't even know how this podcast is going to go. Oh, the best one. The left side of the room must be held at 71 degrees. I mean, who comes up with this shit?
Adam Addison comes out with this thing. And he had more, like Coca-Cola Classic with cane sugar, remove your carbonation. But then all of a sudden the last one was just veggie tray with ranch. So that's what we're used to. That's what we're dealing with tonight. What do we give Adam?
Well, I did have the only thing I come up with was I had a box of hot tamales, but I didn't even give those to him yet. We got to see how this podcast goes first.
So potentially, if this goes well, you could walk out of here, Addison family, with a box of hot tamales.
Can't wait.
You are welcome. Hop on in, get on board. Make sure you talk into the microphone. We do love, the thing about Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess is that it's sharing different types of relationships and the challenges. Because as you look at it, I have this conversation with people every week. The blended family is the new family. The traditional family, the we got married once with a boy and a girl, that doesn't really exist much anymore. So that's why we continue to do this. And so we like to tell people stories like Adam and Amber's, because some people have stories of extreme loss with a beautiful news story. Some people have long-lasting marriages. Some people have failures and grow from them. But we want to acknowledge all kinds of relationships, and especially ones that continue to put in the fight and continue to do the right things and continue to, at the end of the day, win, so that we all have this sense of community that even when we're struggling through hard times, which any marriage, whether you've ever been divorced or not, is going to struggle through hard times. And then especially, as the research shows, when you're married a second time or a third time, the struggles continue to grow. So nobody's immune from it. We work at it and try to do better. And so tonight, we wanted to have the Addisons on so that we could visit with them about their story. And really, I mean, it's a success story. That's what it is.
So first, I want to give you a little backstory on Amber and Adam. So Amber and I have been friends for 12 years. We met through work. And like Aric said, she's very best friend, and her and Adam have been there for me through some tough times, and I think that's the beauty of like true friendship. Amber's amazing in her career. We also work
Amber's
together.
Already crying. She hasn't even talked yet.
We work together. We continue to work together. She's kick-ass at work, amazing mom, and just best friend. So, you know, her and I have been through a lot. Between relationship challenges, disappointment, hurt, loss, heartache, but then also we have amazing stories, right? Travel together, we cry together, laugh till our stomachs hurt, right? So she's just the best friend anybody could even ask for. So one story that always pops in my mind, I don't know if you're going to know which one I'm going to tell, but
so many.
My very first Christmas alone. So divorce, just like fresh out of a divorce, and your first holidays are god awful. I do think that there's beauty in being alone, and like really, I think that's when you find yourself and when you start to rebuild. But it was Christmas Day, and I'm home by myself. Hot mess. Amber and Adam are at Amber's family, and her and I were like kind of chatting back and forth, and she's like, you know what, we're coming over. And so her and Adam came over, and Adam was the hostess with the mostess, and we made crab legs, right? Like, I don't even know why you had crab legs, but for whatever reason.
Who just has crab legs on hand?
He whipped up. They came over. She's like, no, my mom's going to watch the kids. They came over. He also is an amazing bartender and whipped up. It's hard telling. We probably got roofied that night, but he made this amazing dinner and drinks. And they spent their Christmas Day with me because of it just being sucky. So they're amazing support, amazing friends. That's all I got to say about that.
We did learn you need to up your condiments game.
Okay, first of all, yes, Adam has given me so much shit, but I have grown on my condiments game because I basically had ketchup and mustard. And his fridge, I think you need a separate fridge for all the condiments that you have.
I will say she had upped it a little when we met 3+ years ago. It's even better now. Like, I can see where you would have been disappointed. Like, when I got dressed, like, what is this? Like, this is all you have? Like, even her kids were like, no, Mom doesn't even get us Oreos or, like, real cereal. I mean, at the end of the day, I've helped step that up as well. I get the issues in that regard. It was like, we have mustard and ketchup, and that's what we have. I'm like, what? There's so many options.
Cocktail sauce?
No. Oh, let me add, they're also amazing cooks, both of them. But Amber's also amazing baker and shows me up every day on that too. Eric's always. I know Eric loves Amber's pies.
Well, I call her wife number 2. All right, and she is my wife. If she wanted to bake, I'm sure she could. She has no desire. Amber loves to bake, and she's absolutely incredible at it. So it's not a lose for me at all. That Amber is wife number 2 and lives down the street. It doesn't suck.
All right, but that's not why we're here. So that's kind of a backstory. But we wanted to kind of turn it over to Adam and Amber and maybe just share initially, like, what's your story? How long have you guys been together? Share maybe some of the challenges. But the real stuff, Adam, not the dry sense of humor that you have.
You can incorporate that. That's not why people are going to listen.
I'm Amber Addison.
I'm Adam Addison.
And we have been together for about 16 years now. We are kind of a blended family. I was married once before and had a son named Dawson. He's 20 now. And then we have 2 children together, Ava and Rowan. Ava is 14 and Rowan is 8. Let's see, 16 years together has been lots of ups and downs, lots of challenges for sure. When we first met, Adam was actually going down a path to move to Arizona, start a new business, and then we met, and he completely dropped everything for me, which, I mean, in my mind was like the sweetest thing ever, but it was also like very challenging because he moved to a new state where he knew no one, no friends, no family close by, and just really tried to change his path on his career. And I feel like that was super challenging for us just because he didn't know what he wanted to do, and he had his mind set on being an entrepreneur, and then having to think about trying to go and work for somebody else was very challenging. Adam, I'll let you maybe speak to that a little bit.
Well, I'm very good at adapting, but I have a entrepreneur's mentality. I mean, I don't, even the venture I was working on in Arizona it was something that I like to go all in the beginning. Like, I don't hold back. And as you will probably hear, that can be good and bad. And because Amber is the opposite, she's not a total opposite. And one of the reasons why we work so well together is because I can go all in and she's always down. She assesses more of the risk than I do, but I'm very good at picking up the pieces after the fact. Sometimes I can just tornado your ass. And, it's, she freaks out. I stay calm. and we go from there. But yeah, I mean, getting to, Jefferson City, which I'm not a big fan of, wasn't when I got there, still not. There's just not a lot of...
That's why you don't live there anymore.
Yeah, I mean, not that we got too far away, but when I hit somewhere between the age of 18 to 19 years old, I knew, even at an earlier age, that I wasn't going to stay in my hometown. When I hit, I think, 19, I moved to the state of California. And what that did is it kind of pushed off growing up for me. And she was completely different. She came out probably of high school or college the way I know, almost ready-made family style. Yeah. It's just two different worlds. And when we meet back up, 27-ish years old, I've been living in Los Angeles pretty much the whole time, staying young. And she's already been, married a few years and with kids. Yeah. And so it's just, but like I said, getting to Jefferson City was a culture shock for me, even though I'm from a small town, because at that point now you're trying to become something in a place that's very rooted in other people that have been there forever. It's not a great place to just come in and start something. They're not too, adaptive to risk takers and outsiders. But, there's also some great, I'm still in touch with a few guys from around there. There's positive and negatives. Just from getting acclimated, it was a little tricky. I tried a few things and went from there.
Let me just say for a second, you get to LA, you become a certified bartender. You've never had a drink a day in your life. I mean, that's the kind of thing. How does that even happen? I've heard this story and I'm always like, who becomes a bartender? They've never had a drink in their life. How does that work?
Not drinking till the age of, probably 21 or 22 is probably a greater accomplishment or lesser, however you want to look at it. But it's just, when I was growing up, it was, it was a very Southern Baptist atmosphere in my town. And doesn't mean that people weren't drinking. I had tons of friends that would go out drinking, party, whatever. But I just kind of have a way of sticking to my guns on things. And it got to the point to where if I didn't feel like drinking, I wasn't drinking. And if you knew me, and it got to the point literally where if you offered me a drink and one of my buddies were around and they knew I wasn't drinking, like they'd come for you. They'd be like, hey, it got to the point where I didn't even have to say no anymore. It just wasn't my thing. Believe it or not, I'm kind of a control freak, and I didn't like ever even tampering with the ability of not being able to always be in control. And that was my main thing. Because when I actually did start drinking, it's not a big deal. I mean, I'm like, what was I?
He drinks pina coladas now.
Yeah, the more fruit.
We saw that in Mexico a few weeks ago. Yeah. All right, so you end up in
so I get to LA.
City.
Well, I'll explain the bartending thing real quick. So I get to LA, I haven't had a drink, but I'm trying to do LA things, right? So I go down on Sunset Boulevard. I am trying to get a job, and I know that everybody is trying to become an actor or a musician or something. What I learned was that in order to have that type of career, you have to be very flexible. Well, the most flexible job in Los Angeles is waiting tables or bartending. I didn't really have aspirations of being an actor or anything like that, but everybody else was doing it. So I went, got me a resume. I wanted to become a bartender, but I didn't know what that meant or what that process was. I ended up going to bartending school, still had never had a drink. Everything that they taught me was just colored water. They're like, it was just portions and it needs to be this color. Still had never tasted it. I probably worked as a bartender for 2 or 3 months without ever, having tasted alcohol. And like I said, there's even a better story on how I got hired, but that's the short version.
And you were in a film. If someone wanted to watch a film, you were an extra.
I have a lot of them. Yeah, I was an extra for almost 2 years. And when when I was younger guy, probably 24 or between 20 and 24 when I was in LA, and you could just put me in anything. I could be a high school kid. I could be a security guard. I could be, they would, every morning I had a new place to go and a new person to be for almost 2 years. So the things that you can see me in are fewer, but I was in just about everything that was produced in that era.
Oh, wow. That's funny. Benchwarmers, right? That's the one that we can all...
You'll find me there.
Yeah, okay. Oh, gosh. All right, so you get to Jefferson City. It's a culture shock a little bit, but what does that end up doing for you guys at this point in your relationship?
Well, I would say it was definitely a struggle, but we had a couple businesses that we tried opening because that was the path that Adam wanted to go down and failed. And, it was just constant struggle trying to figure out where we could find a good fit for Adam. And, just throughout the years, it just became more difficult. I mean, it just was harder and harder trying to get him to settle down and be stable and not be so risky. I mean, that was the biggest thing. Like he said, he'd tornado your ass. I mean, I felt like he tornadoed my ass.
Because you're stable. You're working for this hot woman to my right.
Yes.
You got a stable gig, working for this hot woman that I'm sitting next to. Adam's tornadoing asses.
She didn't work
there.
for me. We were a team. We worked together.
All right. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I was stable. I had a career I'd been in for many years, and I had a house. The traditional family picture. House, kids, job, all of that, cars, bills. And it was, trying to get Adam to buy into that concept was very difficult. I mean, he was like, I'm going to go do my own thing. And, and I just really struggled with that for 10, 12 years, I would say. I mean, it was lots and lots of ups and downs. And he's very risky. Like you said, I am not a risk taker.
Well, I don't like, I had a vision, for how I wanted things to be. And it's more than, just having a stable 9-to-5er. And also, like I said, some of it was immaturity. I pushed off growing up way longer than you did. Like I said, I don't think I got to Jefferson City till 27 years old, which, now is young. But I swing for the fences. Looking back on it, your stability probably pushed me to swing for the fences. I would I had a safety net, and whether it felt like, it was taking advantage of, or maybe putting us in a spot that, we shouldn't have been in, which I have in a few occasions, but I always trust the long game. I have always been your biggest fan, and that. And, now we're in a spot where we're both pretty much turned loose, and it couldn't be better. But back then, it was just a different atmosphere and world. You were kind of the floor, and I was, I'm looking for lottery tickets everywhere, and that's how I roll.
Well, and that description totally resonates with me. I think whenever you do grow up in a small town, you lock into certainty and what you can control. I mean, I was raised the same way, and so you're kind of wired to think that this is what you're supposed to do. This is the path. Like you get done with school, and you get married, and you have kids, and you have a home. Like that's what you're used to. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think probably for your situation too, when you come across someone that's wired completely different, it's like a fight or flight thing. Like, what do I do with this? And it's going against how I'm initially wired. And so I do think in life you kind of unwire and then figure out how to rewire. Right?
Yeah. Oh, I 100% agree with that. I do feel like everything that we went through was really good for me to go through all those challenges, because I was wired a certain way. And then I was able to basically let go of all of that and actually come back to him and figure out, okay, this is who we're supposed to be, instead of me constantly putting this pressure on him of you need to be a certain way, and then him putting a pressure on me of you need to let me, go out and try to, swing for the fences or whatever. So yeah, it was good for us to go through all of that to get to this point for sure.
And I will say this, there's something different about me, because I was raised
no shit.
Because I was raised in the same atmosphere. It just didn't catch. Like, I even had a term, when I was in high school. So this is how. So when I'm in 11th grade or whatever, getting ready to be seniors, and
a junior, no one calls it 11th grade.
Whatever. I know I'm out of. I don't know when you pick senior rings, but it was a big thing at my school. I just didn't want to be there. I didn't like the small town mentality. She knows. I even call them townies, and I'm sure it's a common term now, and I don't know if I heard it somewhere, but I've been using it for 20-something years. But I could see I called it the assembly line. You know, I saw somewhere earlier in my high school year, gal, he would go get a job, buy a new Chevy. You know, she would date older guys, and this is just a common theme in my town. And then he would get tired of eventually working that same job for 2 years, give up on it, lose his truck, and now it's a shit show in his, you know, and I just kept seeing that over and over and over in the town. I'm just like, no, that's not for me. And when whatever flipped that switch at that point, nothing stuck. So when I'm going to order my senior, everybody's excited about, you know, let's get the school logo and the this and this. Once again, somehow I was a Vikings fan from an NFL standpoint, so I put a Viking on the side of my senior ring. Pissed everyone.
Living in Arkansas, yeah.
Another, you know, rabbit hole. But you know, and it was weird to me that all of the cliquey, you know, females in my high school just, you know, couldn't understand how somebody could do that or, you know, disrespect whatever school it was. I was like, I'm gone. I was like, the second they turn me loose, I'm out of here. So it was just, I don't know what it is, because I grew up in the same small town. It was 2,000 people maybe. Everybody does the same thing, church, football games. You know, it's the same general concept that she was in. And a lot of other people, I knew it wasn't going to be my way. I knew it wasn't going to be my path. I had no problems being, you know, an Arkansan that would drive 20, 30 hours straight into Los Angeles with nothing. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't have a place to stay. Didn't have a job. Didn't have one single thing. Spent my first night on the beach with some homeless people. And it just went from there.
But we talk about this all the time with blended families. The challenge of blending families is you're bringing everybody's history and their experiences together, right? That's the hard part, and you guys experience that too.
Oh, yeah.
Like when you have your own stories and you get married later in life, I don't think people give enough credit to what that challenge. It's hard. It's like, how do you figure out everything that they're actually bringing to the table?
Well, and so then how old were you, or even how old was Dawson then when you guys got together, and now you're all of a sudden a dad, which was probably not your plan, and how does that work for a while before you guys are married and have kids of your own?
He was 4 or 5-ish, and, you know, they kind of had their thing going. It wasn't like a quick introduction. The one thing about me I also knew is I wasn't a big family person. I pushed it off, but I knew that when it came time to be that, I was going to be good at it. Yeah, I knew I was going to be a good dad. I knew I was going to be involved. You know, I just knew those types of things about myself. I wasn't ready for it. We talked about it, but I also don't give a shit. I was so much in love with her that I was willing to take on whatever to make it happen. I mean, there are so many stories about just how I would even fly 20 hours of the day to hang out with her for 2 hours. You know, it was just, I was that far into it. So I was going to make it shake out no matter what.
Adam is a great dad. I'll say that. Adam is a really good dad, and he cracks me up all the time. I wish I was more like you when it comes to some of the things. In the last 12 months, we continue to be neighbors. We'll talk about that a little more as we go on. But in the last 12 months, you guys had people over to your house one night, and there was several people in the neighborhood, and there's a lot of kids. You kept like 7 kids under the age of 10 busy for 3 hours because you had them searching your backyard in the dark for a $20 bill that was not there. And they kept looking for you. Like, I put it out there. I know it's out there somewhere. They kept looking. Finally, at the end of the night, you spread out several 5s so that they could have some kind of reward for their hours of searching. But the adults had several hours of time together, like several couples, because the kids just kept searching for money that wasn't really there. Adam was searching or having them search for it. It was hilarious.
Cheapest babysitter ever.
It really was.
Well, you know, like I said, I knew. What was fun about that game is I kept sectioning off the yard. I'd be like, look, all right, I'm going to give you some clues. It's somewhere from here to there. And, you know, they would go to that area, and then I would make the area smaller and smaller. And then finally, like you said, after the 3rd hour, I bring them all in. I'm like, I'm going to go make sure it's still out there. And I walk out and I start just dropping, rolling them up and sticking them in the grass. Somehow they just became easier to find.
Yeah, Adam is an amazing dad. I will say that was probably one of the biggest things that made me fall in love with him, is just seeing how he interacted with Dawson and, being a bonus dad, it's not something that I think is easy. And he made it look really easy. He knew how to interact with him, but not cross lines to where it made Dawson feel like, well, you're not my dad. Adam did an amazing job with Dawson when he was younger. And so it just made me want to be with him even more.
So note to the guys listening that it's hot as shit when you're a great bonus dad to your kiddos.
Yes.
Take that note. So
another note, it is not easy.
No.
Not at all.
It is not easy.
No.
There are, times where you're just like, so, but
it is hard.
But it was, like I said, it was one of those things. Dawson's awesome. And, it does help. He had a good structure and he was a good kid. That goes a long way as well. So it's just one of those things where I wanted to be so invested in her that I was willing to take on whatever. And, if he comes with it, even better.
So maybe, can you guys dive into maybe more of like, what was like maybe your toughest challenge and how did you guys get through that? Because I know a lot of people reach out and like, hey, marriage is hard, blended families is hard. Like, how do you get through those tough times? Because none of us are immune to it. Like, we're all going to go through challenging times.
Yeah, for me, I would say the most challenging time, and I can't probably put like one exact moment to it, but just feeling like I couldn't get off the hamster wheel, not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, it was just, I felt like Adam was just making one risky decision after another, and it was putting even more and more pressure on me, and just not knowing when we were going to get to a stable place, because that's really what my end goal was. I'm like, I just want to be stable. Like, I just want things to calm down instead of just constantly making risky decisions. And that was probably the most challenging for me. And then I feel like we had to make hard decisions in order to get past that. There was times where we had and just the backstory of this too is Adam and I, we don't fight. I mean, that can be good or bad. I don't know. Like, we've never really been the type that gets super heated and upset. And, we try to talk things through, and that's good. But a lot of times when I would get upset too, I would just kind of like crawl into my shell. And that wasn't good either. So I do feel like that was a challenge, is trying to figure out how to communicate while we were going through our hardest times. But eventually, I just had to put boundaries in place. I mean, it took me 10, 12 years of dealing with this and trying to figure out, like, what's my next move? And I do not play chess. Adam does. He's a chess player. I play checkers. He plays chess.
Mentally. I play mentally. Yeah. Not the game.
But, just 10 years of going through all this, like, hard times and risky decisions, and finally, I just decided I have to put some boundaries in place.
What do those boundaries look like for you? Because that really is the hard part, right? And then we can talk about all the good stuff that's happened since then. Yeah,
I would say, the obvious ones, like separating our finances, everything we had was in my name. I was too afraid Adam was going to, lose the house, lose the cars. Who knows what he's going to do. He was making some pretty crazy decisions at the time. And so that was probably the first thing I did, was to set boundaries. But it still didn't remove the pressure. I still, we were married. So it was like any decision he made, we're partners. And so that's going to affect me. So eventually it was like, okay, well, my boundary is I have to cut ties until you can figure out how you can be stable and be that guy for me, instead of me constantly wishing and trying to push you in a direction. I'm putting that pressure on you. I'm putting that pressure on him, saying, hey, I can't walk around with this every day, all day.
And that's when I met you, Amber.
Yeah.
And so then, but Adam's like a completely different guy now. So then what happened in that process of Amber putting some boundaries in place and you kind of like going, okay, well, let's meet those? Because here's what I will say to people that are listening is they are incredibly in love and good for each other. And you could see that even when it was in a place that was hard. So I would just say that. You could always see, even when it was in a place that was hard, that they were supposed to be together. They just had to figure out the right things.
Amber's getting teary-eyed over here.
Yeah, I mean, as it relates to the boundaries and the things, none of that really mattered to me. When we met, it was marriage is a thing that I just feel has kind of just been created almost like holidays. It's just, something people feel or there's outside influence as to why you do some of those things. And I told her, I said, marriage is a piece of paper to me. I said, I love you beyond what a piece of paper, could ever explain or indicate. So when she's talking about, some of these things, because, with all the laughs that we've had up to this point, like I said, I can tornado your ass, and I would do that occasionally without regard in some cases. I always had them in mind, but, there is a graveyard full of people with good intentions, and their ideas and motives lie with them. So, that's been a lot of what I've done. I had the greatest intentions when I would do some of these things. If I, I just assume, I convince myself, and my ego tells me that I'm going to make this happen.
Yeah.
And, so I don't see it not happening. And she's over here to the point now where her mind instantly goes to, it's not happening. With any dating I have these days, it's gotten better, but, so I always respected the boundaries, and I understood the necessity of them. But what actually, makes the difference or makes the change is I'm not willing to ever give up on it. There's always so much love that I have for her and now our family that it wouldn't matter what you had asked me to do. It was just going to happen. So if you needed some boundaries, or if there needed to be some things, in place to make it fit and feel better for you, that's not a problem. And on my end, it does require, some work. You have to show progress, and you have to, make these things happen. I just felt stability was the easy button. Like, I can always go and be stable. What I don't have is a lot of time, to hit that home run or do that, amazing thing to pull us out of just stability, or, average, or whatever it is. The middle basically is what I just didn't want to hang out in the middle. So, there was, I respected all the things, we've had tons of conversations about it, but it was just, I felt like I was going to do whatever. It didn't matter, and if I felt I pushed her too hard at certain times, I would, in my own way, reel it back, or, hit whatever it is. To where we sit right now, it literally did. It took me a lot of that time to kind of master it, to get it to a point to where, because she wants, somebody she can be proud of. And I put some dents in that armor, and she wants somebody that can just be stable. And I like to be stable and be able to influence what I do. So, I'm in a good spot. We just, it just took tweaks. But ultimately, I would just say, if I ever felt that it was going to be to the point to where it wouldn't be us, I would have changed anything.
I would just say in the last 3 years I've known you, you've become stable with some tweaks. And I like that version. I like stable with some tweaks. That's good.
The thing I'll kind of yes and to everything that they're saying, because Amber and I, we've been through it all, is I think in relationships when you're going through tough challenges, the pivot point I saw for Amber was for the 10 plus years, she felt like she was like responsible and that she had to like fix it, right? Like, I think all women, we're wired like that, right? We want to be the fixers and the helpers. But once you got to a point where it was like, you know what?
I can't fix it.
This is not on, like, I'm not responsible. It's not on me. I felt like that was like a pivot point for you guys too, a little bit, where she's like, okay, here's the boundaries. This is what I need. I'm going to go do my own thing. I'm not responsible. But it takes a long time, I feel like, to get to that point, to feel like, okay, this really isn't me.
Yeah.
It's not on me.
Right.
I need to stop trying to own it, type of thing. And then, yeah, you guys are at like such a great spot now. I think it's an amazing story just through growth and just how you work through challenges, because it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Oh my gosh, for sure. And I will say too, just that feeling of failure. I know, like, anybody that's been married once before, when you get married a second time, like, you just do not want to fail. I mean, it's such a scary thing to go through, to think, oh my gosh, is my second marriage going to fail too? And so then it's like you have to like completely remove that thought process and question yourself, like, what is failure? Is failure, what does that mean? Is it mean getting divorced again? Does it mean staying with someone who's going to put this much pressure on you? I mean, what does it mean? So it's like finally you just kind of let all of that go. And you're just like, I don't care if it looks like I'm failing. I'm going to have to do my own thing.
Well, the other thing to note, too, is we did a podcast recently on the Enneagram, and I shared I'm an achiever. And as an achiever, like, you care about the outward appearances, and you have a huge fear of failure, which Amber is also an achiever. Yeah. So I totally understand that, right? Like, that is a huge fear. And a lot of times people have been married before. You go on the, I mean, that was another reason why I didn't want to get married. I did not want to take that risk of even remotely maybe having a chance of failing, because it's scary and you're just not wired that way. You're wired to like have everything together and have this perfect little family, right?
Yes.
Goes against the grains about we're wired.
It really does. And so one of the things I just think that this episode of the podcast, I hope it really shares with people, is that you can go through relationship in incredibly difficult times, awful times, and then end up in a really good place. Because here's what I love about our story is that for people that don't know, we've referenced Amber several times in the podcast. I think the very first episode we reference Amber because I meet Amber the day after our first date. Yeah, she's in heels at a Cardinals game. Which, didn't you meet Amber at a Cardinals game, Adam?
It was after.
Yeah, after.
After a Cardinals game. It's like Cardinals game's your thing, I guess.
That's my thing.
Brings me into the picture. But it's one of those things where the four of us we've become incredibly close. I mean, if there's a couple friends, it's like if we're going up to Mexico for Angie's birthday, we're going with Adam and Amber. If we're going to do a golf outing, we're going with Adam and Amber. And it's, when I first met Angie, you guys lived down the street. And now we've moved to a different city. I mean, where I lived.
And we live down the street.
You guys moved down the street. It tells me you guys must have liked me a little bit.
Yes.
So
it was me.
It was you. I know it was you. I know. I was trying to feel good. But it's one of those things where if we go back to Angie talking about her first Christmas, where she's alone, she's told me that story so many times, that you guys showed up. Even when things weren't going well between the two of you, she always had a fondness for Adam, that he showed up and cooked that meal that day, because it meant something to her. Yeah. I mean, a lot of things that he's done have shown up for her, the way he's shown up, right? And so when other people may not see it, she's always seen the side of Adam that shows up for people when it's time. And so then when I come along, you and Adam were living together, but you weren't together, right? That's fair to say, right? If you want me to edit that out, I can. But you were together, but you weren't together. And so I don't think I met Adam for like 6 months after Angie and I were together. You became wife number 2. And so then I felt like I had to kind of take care of you for a while. So I think for a while, Adam was kind of taking care of Angie. Then I was taking care of you.
Yeah.
That's a fair assessment.
Right? And then we come along and there's just this fond affinity for everybody. Like, okay, you do really good stuff. We're all doing good things together. And we've all been through challenges. I've not been perfect. Adam's not been perfect. You girls are pretty perfect, but you're not perfect, okay? You're not perfect.
We're kind of perfect.
Kind of.
Kind of.
Like the closest you can get.
Yeah,
You girls are close,
skating.
right? Right. But it is. We're getting there. And so at the end of the day, all the challenges show that, and you guys have been there for each other's children,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's another thing. And so as we talk about this podcast, and we talked about it last week, building community. Right? Building community of, okay, we've been through the hard marriage. We're still together. We're thriving now. I mean, that's why I would put you and Adam in the category, Amber and Adam in the category. We're thriving. It's been hard. Now we're thriving. Kids are starting to thrive. Angie and I are thriving. It's the same kind of thing. It's all really good things. And I think that's why it's so important for us to want you guys to be on the podcast, is because it hasn't always been sunshine and roses, sunshine and rainbows, whatever people say. And now here you are. We're super, proud's not a good enough word, because we love you so much that we're just happy.
Yeah.
And excited to share your story with people that are listening.
It can make me cry.
So we've talked about the challenges. Maybe maybe share like what's one thing you love about the other person.
Ooh, I'll go first. I would say what I love the most about Adam is his love for me. I've never felt like he loved something more than me, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like he appreciates me. He goes above and beyond to make sure that I feel loved, and he makes sure that our kids know that they need to love me or that he loves me.
I think it's fair. When I first met you guys and you were not in a good spot, I kept telling each other, that dude's not going anywhere. Like, I mean,
he loves me.
Yeah, he is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Relentless.
Yeah. He loves me. And I love that about him. And his humor. I do love that.
He's semi-funny.
He's semi-funny.
He is one of the funniest dudes ever.
I would say the main thing I love
Just pick one.
about Amber of the so many, and I think this is semi-cliche-ish, but everything, as much as I love her, it's my love for her that motivates me to just be better for her. And when you were as immature as I was when we first met, that version held next to the version that I am today is apples and oranges. And a lot of it is because of her, not just her influence on me, but my motivation to be more of what she wants. And it actually, it just made me a better person. She's also my equal or better. I have an ego, which everybody's aware of. And, one of the things that we initially fell in love over was, I can tell a joke and I don't like to explain it. And, when she picked up on a few of them without me having to draw it out, I haven't run into too many, females at that point that had, achieved such things. So, just having somebody that, in my opinion, that was my equal or better, because I just feel like you can't drag somebody. And at points she probably felt she was dragging me at times, but that was just because I can, like I said, get into crazy shit. But that's the thing I love about her. One, I feel like I have a respect for her that I don't for anybody else. She just demands a better version.
You did tear me up slightly on that, so good job. 2, she is better than you. So, last thing we ask our people that join us on the podcast, what is your favorite? You have a wonderful family, 3 kids, blended family. What is your favorite family tradition? Each of you, go.
Oh my gosh, this is so funny, but... And Angie, you probably know what I'm going to say, but it's our family whistle.
Oh my God. Yes. I love the family whistle. God. Do it, Adam, do it.
It's just going to sound like a whistle.
I even feel like I respond to, oh my God, does he want my attention?
It does work. It has just the right amount of whistle and air.
But explain it. What is the deal with the family whistle?
It's just,
why do you have it?
Because it's one of those, it's almost like if you're in a crowded place and you're scattered about, I can whistle and I can see 2 heads turn, 3 heads turn. My entire group will look at me.
But you need to say what you say. Like, how do you tell your kids, you better respond to my family, the family whistle?
They are all aware. It is
if I whistle, you better respond.
It is programmed within them at this point. You cannot, if I whistle that way, their head spins. They know what that means, and it's time to move your ass.
We'll be on vacation together. We've been in Alabama. We've been in Mexico. He'll whistle, and Angie doesn't turn because she's not used to it. He's like, you better teach your woman the family whistle.
Get your house in order.
Yeah, that's what he says. You better get your house in order.
We don't know the family whistle. That's your family whistle. That's not our family
universal.
Oh, I do love the family whistle. That's
a good one.
Something to work on.
That's a good one.
Well, really good. Guys, thank you for being on the podcast tonight. I know it was a really long drive and down the street. And so thank you for being here. If you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask Adam and Amber, because we know that not everybody is in a great spot in their relationship right now, we'll be happy to pass that along. Amber will give you a really serious answer and Adam will give you a really funny answer. And that's really what we're looking at. So, but thank you guys for being here. We appreciate you. We love you very much. And we just thank everybody for listening to this week's episode. What do you want to say?
We love you too. Thank you for having us.
Besties. We're the A-team.
A-team.
Yeah.
All of us, our names start with the A.
Aric, Angie, Adam, and Amber. I love it. Also, it's fall. When you get home,
pumpkin pie.
I don't like pie. I was thinking a pecan pie.
Okay.
You could just whip me up a pecan.
Oh my God.
Thanks. Appreciate you.
Dear God.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess. We'll see you next week, and God bless. Thank you for listening to Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and at blendedblessedalwaysamess.com.
Reach out to us on any of our social channels. We would love to hear from you. Have a great week.